Welcome back to the Mobile Homestead. My name is Kim, and today we are doing our 5th garden tour. Look at it. It's gonna be a good one. Let's go. Look at it. It's huge. Look at this wall of green. I can't wait to get in there with you guys. There is so much going on. It's all coming together now. So let's start over here with the herbs. Gonna check out what's going on. We had a really good rain last night, and it's given everything a nice good soak, which is great. There's definitely something in here that's mint. I've been squishing some of these leaves, smelling them, and it's mint. The cilantro and parsley is filling out pretty good. I mean, I gotta say honestly that this space isn't filling out exactly as I had pictured it, especially since I started everything from seed. I gotta imagine if I was doing stuff from a lot more started plants that it would probably be a lot more bushed out by now. I got some cute new fairy furniture from my friend Maggie. This little tiny table and chair set, welcome sign. Got a new fairy house there and a bird house, other fun stuff. It's just really adding to the whimsy of this space. Also some new furniture back here. Like I got a little gnome and a well, new bench over there. The strawberry spinach still has some seedlings in here that have sprouted. They're still on their original seed leaves. I don't know if they're really gonna make it. This was just a whole experiment right here, and so far not going as planned, so that might get trashed and be something else just to be a bit more utilized for this year. So this freaking mulberry tree, I did a really dumb thing by planting my garden under a mulberry tree because they grow extremely fast. My initial reasoning for planting where I did is that the dogs can't get to it as easy. The tree was nowhere near this big when I planted my garden last year, and I didn't expect it to get as big and bushy as it has. So downsides with that is right now the mulberries are ripening, so super great. Mulberries are edible and they're nice and dark, but they also shake right off, and I mean, the ground is just littered with them, which means so are my pots and my plants, and I've been constantly picking them out and spraying them off of the tables and chairs, and I've got purple fingers. And basically if they're on the ground too, they've got ants and stuff in them, so everything right here is not viable. I had these grandiose plans of trying to put a tarp and collect and stuff, but I've been working. It hasn't been happening. I've just been pulling branches down as I've been working in the garden and doing a bit of fresh eating, and I'm satisfied for right now. This needs a lot of trimming up though, and really this tree shouldn't have even been allowed to grow here, but this isn't our property. It was already big and mature when we moved in, so I'm just working with it. If I owned this place, I would have had it cut down and removed a while ago, because there is actually another mulberry tree back there along with some crab apples behind the shed, and what's possible is that this one just got planted by a bird. Some bird ate a seed and then pooped it out, made a tree, and now I'm dealing with the repercussions all over the place. The dogs are really excited about it though. They get to eat a lot of fresh berries. So as we go through here, there's going to be a lot of berries in all of the pots that we look at. This is really my first walkthrough of the garden today, so I haven't gone through and done any work. I'm going to need to harvest some things after I make this video, but I wanted to show you guys what they were first before I actually pull them. So the apple mint is doing good. I am going to come through and snip off some. I want it to bush out a little bit more than it is. So this is a spot where I've already picked before, right down in the center here. That little black spot in between my fingers is where there was one stem coming out. I snipped it down to where there were 2 points, and now it's starting to bush out by sending out 2 more. So I'm going to do that with a few more of these, shorten it up, but hopefully bush it out a bit more. This strawberry plant that overwintered in this pot from last year is doing really good. This borage has just been a whole trip. It looks like it's doing great, right? And I mean, it just rained, so it's fallen over from the weight of it. I think it'll spring back. It's flowered, and the flowers are absolutely gorgeous. Borage flowers are just so fun. But this plant, I've been dealing with ants harvesting and farming aphids on this plant for the past couple of weeks now. I have sprayed it with neem oil. I have sprayed it with a soapy water solution to try and kill the aphids, because that's basically what you're trying to do. You're not trying to kill the ants per se, you're just trying to get rid of the aphids so the ants have nothing to farm. And I've definitely seen a reduction of numbers, but it has not completely eradicated the issue. I think what I need to go through is maybe just remove some leaves, because like this leaf is curled up and all inside of there, I know this camera doesn't really pick it up, but you can see that it's darker. That's because there's black aphids all in there. Oh, gotta go through and get all these dang mulberries. They're just tucked into my pineapple here. Is the mini basil. Still mini, still doing great. This celery is getting big and bushy, and I need to start coming out and taking some lettuce. I was gonna harvest some today, but I think I'm gonna let it dry out before I do that. Tucked under here, we got this purple basil is doing really good. Just gonna let that go. And then these beans here, like something's been coming through and nibbling them. I haven't been able to catch the culprit, but it seems to be doing okay, so I'm just letting it do its thing. These nasturtiums had a couple of flowers on the last garden walkthrough, and then it hasn't set anymore. I don't have any more nasturtium buds on it, but that yellow guy in there is a flower from the creeping Jenny. That's struggling to go in there. Lettuce beds still doing great. And then I've also got some beets in there that sprouted. Let's see, a couple more back there. Those beets didn't germinate as well as I was hoping they would. It's all an experiment. I think I definitely just planted them way too late. But whatever I can get out of them would be pretty cool, because we're just looking to do some fresh eating. I wasn't looking to can those or get enough to really do some giant thing with them. I've never had fresh beets, actually, I'll admit. It's always been sliced canned beets from the store. Remember when these were so small and twiggy in styrofoam cups in my house? Now look at them. And here's the other borage. This is the one where it's just the one plant in the pot. This whole entire thing, each one of these is going to be a flower. This plant also slightly struggled with kind of an ant aphid situation, but not as bad as the other one, which I thought is weird. Since this pot is actually directly on the ground, I thought would be more accessible for the ants, but in fact the other one has struggled a lot more. So still have not seen any oregano sprout. I don't know if maybe it's just one that takes a real long time. I gotta go back and check the seed packet, but still leaving it there. Carrots are doing really good, I think. I haven't tried poking down in there. I don't really want to disturb the root yet, but I think that we're gonna get some good carrots. And then I did plant, get out of here, leaf. That storm blew a lot of stuff in. I did plant more radishes. These are watermelon radishes. They're gonna be green on the outside, pink on the inside. And if you, I guess, quarter them and then sprinkle them with black sesame seeds, that's the way to make them look like little watermelon slices, so that'll be fun. And this kale, I did thin down to, I just got the 4 plants. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is something that I was gonna harvest a good amount of today. Even though it's wet, I mean, because of the nature of kale and other kind of brassica-like leaves, like, you can kind of hear it's got like a waxiness to it. And what I'm gonna do is just take these, rinse them off from the house a little bit and let them dry, and then I'm gonna cut them up and sprinkle them with like some garlic powder and stuff and dehydrate them. You can make kale chips in like 2 hours in the dehydrator, so that's something I'm gonna do. Harvesting this is gonna encourage more growth, so I wanna make sure I keep that going. Time to see how much rain we got too. Holy cow. We got almost 2 inches of rain. That's insane. Let's look at the Swiss chard. It's actually doing good. The only thing that I'm bummed about is it's supposed to be a like bright lights, rainbow colors, right? Well, all of these are just like the green yellow kind. And over here, I've got one bunch that's red. Well, this lemon basil is still doing pretty good. It's just starting to get its actual true leaves in there in the teeny tiny armpits. So that'll start bushing out. These flowers are, you know, still cranking, still rolling. And then I have a big pot here that I just planted some dill seeds a couple of days ago. I'm really hoping this variety of, it's called mammoth dill, and it's supposed to get like 3-4 foot tall. And I'm kind of hoping that when I planted it, will allow it enough time to kind of do that, fill up this space. Look at this wall of green. I'm really glad that I put in the trellis when I did, because the cucumber plant is now that close to the tree. It's basically at the top. That's how tall it is. It's actually taller than my finger. So my cucumber plant is taller than me, and I'm 5.5 feet tall. It's actually grabbed a hold of the tree already there. I'm gonna have to kind of remedy that situation. This cucumber's been an unruly boy. So we'll just start in the early girl tomatoes here. I've got this marigold that I started inside, and it's finally starting to form its first flower bud, so that's really fun. That should attract some pollinators over here. And then you'll notice the pruning job that I've been doing on the tomatoes. I've cut off 1, 2, 3 main branches going up. Actually, a 4th one right here. This whole side shoot coming up, this is a sucker that I accidentally let get way too big, and then it set this whole cluster of flowers, so I'm like, that's more tomatoes, I'll keep it. And that's exactly what suckers will do. You could actually have taken that sucker out if, you know, you don't let it get as big as I did. You can put that in a glass of water. It's gonna grow new roots. You can get a new tomato plant. It's gonna be a clone of this one. So this pruning is mainly to make sure that I've got a good amount of airflow through these plants. There are some diseases such as like wilt and funguses and things that are very common in tomatoes, and one thing that you can do to help remedy that is make sure you've got good airflow so that after, you know, a rain like we got last night, these plants will be able to dry and not harbor the kind of environment that harmful bacteria and fungus just absolutely thrive in. And then this cucumber plant, I did some of that hand pollinating with the going back and forth with a paintbrush and got a cucumber out of it. Now this cucumber I'm gonna harvest today. I don't want it getting too much larger because it's the first one. I haven't grown this variety before. I want to see what being at this size is gonna taste like. And you'll notice that kind of in the center it's a little thinner than the rest. Leaving it on the vine is not gonna solve that problem. That is caused by it being under-pollinated. There's nothing that I can do about it now. Flowers like squash and cucumbers and things like that, they have separate male and female flowers. The female has the actual cucumber plant at the base of it, right? And we go back and forth with the paintbrush to pollinate, or you're relying on the pollinators to go back and forth several times. It's not a one and done thing. They have to be pollinated multiple times to fully develop all of the different seeds inside of the plant. And if it's under-pollinated, then certain areas, those seeds are not going to fully develop, meaning that the fruit is going to be slightly undersized, it might look misshapen, and again, there's nothing that you can do about it at that point. So, you know, that's fine. It's going to still be perfectly edible. It's just going to be a little wonky looking, and considering that it's the first fruit of the season, I'm not going to complain because I got one really, really early. Now, at the same time, you'll see right in front of it this little guy. This is one of the first ones that was set. That was one that I tried hand pollinating, and it did not take. So what could have been a cucumber is now shriveling up and falling off. And although it's sad and I'm a little disappointed, that's very, very common. That is typical. That is expected of plants like cucumbers. They are going to set so many female flowers with little baby cucumbers, so many male flowers to help pollinate them, that this is just part of the life cycle. Some of them don't take at the beginning of the season. You're also waiting for the pollinators to start realizing that they're there and start coming through. Oh, this is the sunflower from my friend. Having the rain come through is nice and we need it, but it means that sometimes plants get really, really damaged. I'm hoping that one pulls through, but I don't know if it's gonna. Alyssa, I'm sorry about the sunflower. Alright, cherry tomatoes, what you got for me? Got some nice fruits forming there. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right now. My little flowers. Go into the garden here. I always do an outer perimeter walk first just because it's a little bit easier, and then kind of go in and sit in there for a little bit and like revel in the greenery. Look at this. Look at all that. Look at that, just boom. Grabbing hold of the tree, gotta fix that there. Oh. Look at the peas. Do you guys remember when this bucket was empty? And then when this bucket just barely sprouted peas? And then when they were struggling and I was really concerned it wasn't gonna set anything? 1, 2, 3, 4, I've eaten 5, 6, 7. That's just one of the 6 tendrils that are going up. I've got you know, new blossoms setting. There's peas like down in there that I've got to kind of dig around. They're doing really well. This is little marvel peas. Each of these pods haven't really filled out yet. You can see they're still pretty thin, but you can eat them as, you know, snap peas like that, like how you would have in a stir fry or something, like little snow peas. There are some varieties that are just sold as snow peas. They're not going to develop the peas inside of the pod. They are meant to be eaten pod and all. This zucchini here has set its first male blossom. I don't think I should have let it, but see, I can tell it's a male blossom just because it's got a normal stem. It doesn't have a zucchini at the base of it, and that's pretty standard for zucchini plants to set male flowers first. And I think the reasoning behind that is because the plant is trying to use its color, use its flowers to attract pollinators to it, get them around, and then start setting the female flowers so as to not waste any of that fruit that it might set. Plants are smart, man. Again, you can see how I've pruned up this tomato, because none of those stems were producing any flowers. That's just bushing out and making it really easy for wilton fungus to set in, making it really easy for any kind of pests to grab hold of the long leaves, get up into the bucket, get up in here. So just by doing that, I've provided the plant, I mean, it's obviously doing fine, and I've provided it with a good amount of space to get good airflow to go up within there. These are going to be the slicing tomatoes, the early girls. And if you can see, like, look at how big the crown's gonna be. These are gonna be some honking tomatoes. There's another bunch. There's another bunch. Another bunch in here. I'm gonna have so many. Oh my gosh, there's another one that's just developed since last night. So the cucumber has sent up a lot of different branches, and it's really starting to develop. I just can't tell you guys how pleased I am. The cherry tomatoes up front are doing really well too. This has set a whole ton. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 or 15 on this one bunch. And there's another one. And there's another one. And around there's another one. And there's a new one forming up in there. I'm so excited. I love this kind of season where it's just the looming harvest is staring you in the face. So it's, I think, gonna go peas, cucumbers, and then tomatoes. And then the beans are starting to do really well also. I'm just curious as to when they're gonna set some flowers. So far it's just been sending up a whole bunch of tendrils. I don't see any flowers starting to go or anything, but it's doing real good, so. And then over in squash row, kind of the same thing here. The plants themselves are looking a lot better. I know the camera's not really picking it up great right now, but they do look really green. I had an issue with them looking really yellow a couple of weeks ago. Giving them a very low fertilizer, just kind of letting that soak in. These buckets, since they're not self-watering, a lot of nutrients are going to wash out as they're getting watered. So I got to make sure to stay on top of the fertilization. These plants, any kind of this, you know, squash or something like zucchini that has big fruit that's going to set like that. I know it's a vegetable, but it's the part of the plant that holds the seed, so botanically it's called a fruit. The fruit-heavy varieties of plants feed heavily as well, so I've got to make sure to stay on top of that. But this is one of the honey nut squashes, and it is starting to set little flowers. Is 1, 2. Those are going to be male flowers. I don't see any. Oh, here's the third one. Yeah. So yeah, that's it for the edible plants. There is a few things in the flower beds though that I wanted to show you that are actually starting to come through really nicely, so let's check it out. This candy cane zinnia, that one off to the side, got completely just decimated by pests. And I kind of left it there to continue to be a feast for pests, so that they left this one alone, which they've left alone long enough that there is a flower bud on the top there, and I'm really excited about that. And then here is a sunflower going as well. The marshmallow plant is doing really good. I'm so happy that this guy volunteered, because look at how tall it is, and it's set its first flowers. Yes, this second one has actually just opened up since yesterday. Yesterday I saw the first one, and that's what kicked me in the pants, and I was like, ooh, I gotta do a garden tour, because people gotta see these. And in all of these crooks is gonna be more flowers. I'm really excited that this one showed up out of nowhere. That whole stalk's gonna have flowers too. Back in there, that random carnation plant. I mean, for being a dead zone that I didn't really care about too much or put a lot of thought into, something really happy happened over there, so, you know. What is it Bob Ross says? Something about happy little accidents? Oh, hello! These are the first candy cane zinnias of the year. Oh, I'm gonna come out and cut these. Cutting zinnias like that, it's just like basil and mint. You pinch off one and two more come back in its place. So I was at Menards the other day and there was a ton of seeds on sale, and so even though I don't need them, I got more seeds. And so I planted more seeds here on the porch. This and this are lettuce and mesclun mixes. This is some spinach, since the spinach that I had so far this year just did so poorly. And then I've got some Danvers half-long carrots, which, just like they sound like, are not going to be giant. They're going to be, you know, a good maybe 4 or 5 inches at most. And then this one and this one are what's called French dressing radishes. They're also going to be a long finger type of radish, not a little bulb. And this one's called a Zlata radish, and that means gold in Czech, and that is a seed that I got from Baker Creek Seed Company. So I'm really excited for those. They've actually already started germinating. These little kind of specks that you can see, those are actually the sprouts from the radishes. So really excited about that germination rate. And I'm already starting to see some in the French dressing bucket as well. And then in here is a lime basil. I've got lemon basil already. I've got mini globe basil. I just don't think you can get enough basil. Hopefully I'll have so much basil, I'll have pesto coming out of my ears. This is a good example of what I was talking about with the zinnias. I had one flower that I already harvested, my very first one, right in there at the tip of my finger. And now it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like all of the armpits send out a new one. And all of those are going to be zinnias. So these Thumbelinas are doing really well in these pots over here too. So happy. Got lots of flowers. So that's where we're at on week 5. I know it's really wet and messy, there's lots of berries, I've got a lot of cleanup to do, a lot of recovery after the storm last night, but I am grateful for almost 2 inches of rain because we got almost 30 straight days of no actual meaningful rainfall here, and I mean, that was so bad. It's not even July. We're not even in the hottest part of the season yet. And I've already seen an increase in my water bill. We've lived here almost 2 years, and we've always paid like the bare minimum base charge for water, and it went up because I've had to water, and I'm not happy about that. So, you know, I'll take the having to do some cleanup on a Saturday in order to not have to water and pay for that. Thanks, Mother Nature. Alright guys, so I'm gonna go get those things harvested, get inside, get some kale chips going. I'll see you next week when we do another walkthrough. I appreciate you stopping by. Until next time.